Dr. Anthony Harper here with the InterMountain Christian Newspaper and the Christian Newspaper Association. Blessed to be here today at the White House with Sarah Huckabee Sanders. We'll be talking about President Trump's recent trip to Israel, and it's great to have you join me here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
So if you could share with our listeners kind of a highlight, what happened on President Trump's trip to Israel there.
It was an incredible trip, I think, incredibly historic, given that he met with both the president and prime minister while we were there, but also a big part of his trip was meeting with making stops in all of the biggest religious kind of locations around the globe, starting in Saudi Arabia, then to Israel, and then on to Rome. It was, again, I think, both historical and very spiritual for a lot of people.
Okay, and I know one of the stops was at the Western Wall.
It was, and I think anybody that saw the visuals saw how moving that was, and certainly, again, very historic, given that no president has ever been to the Western Wall and participated in that setting.
Okay, I was there at the arrival at the airport. You were there, I'm assuming, as well.
I was, yes, sir.
Yeah, and the president of Israel was there.
He was, and including the majority, I think all of the cabinet from the Israeli government was there as well. A huge sign of respect, but I think even bigger than that, it was a sign of the unbreakable bond that we have between the United States and Israel, and it shows the importance that the president has placed on that relationship, continuing to develop that and continuing to show how important our relationship with him is.
You know, as you're aware, President Trump was talking about the violence issues, and he was there in Saudi Arabia as well. There was this global peace. There was a dedication. There was a building that he was at. Do you know anything about his time at the Saudi Arabia?
Yeah, again, this was a monumental moment, I think, not just for this trip, but in his presidency, to bring the leaders of so many different countries together, Muslim-dominated countries in that region. I think there were over 55 leaders from around that area that came to talk specifically about combating terrorism, combating ISIS, and actually getting a little bit of skin in the game and taking that burden on within the members of that region. Is a really big moment, again, not just for the trip, but I think that will be part of the legacy of the president.
A lot of people have been wondering how does reduce this violence. I know President Trump talked about that this violence needs to stop, with this extremism. So what's his plan for this agreement working with us stopping this violence?
I think that it's multifaceted. You have to cut off the funding source, which is a big priority of the group that met in Saudi Arabia. It's putting an emphasis on looking at targeting them through digital and social platforms. And again, he's working with all members of the intelligence community, from the Homeland Security Department as well as many others from our side, to figure out the best ways to combat that. But those are some of the early ways that I know this group is focused on, is cutting off funding sources and looking at other ways to find them through different social media platforms.
Well, very disturbing what's happening there, and hopefully we can get get more peace there. And a lot of Israeli people are concerned about this. And the president of Israel, when I was there at the airport, he was talking about, he referenced Muslims, Christians, and Jews. We have different beliefs, but yet we all worship the same God. And I know that he was trying to be political and trying to unite people. But there was a lot of emotion in that. So
yeah, I think anytime you're talking about the sanctity of life, which is basically what this is. I mean, people are literally fighting for survival, particularly in that region.
Right.
And it's hard for that not to be an emotional and moving moment. And I think that's one of the reasons that President Trump has placed such a high priority on national security and defeating ISIS, and making that probably one of the key points of his administration, is fighting that.
I guess the final thing would be the embassy issue. There was a lot of talk about, when he was in Israel, about moving the embassy, and of course recently that he has signed something about kind of a delay in this. In the press meetings we're talking about that he was going to fulfill the campaign promise. What is the status for the embassy issue? Or are you able to comment on that?
As the president said in the statement, it's not a matter of if, but when. And right now he's trying to work through the peace process and is still very much plans to do that, but wants to work through this process first before we take those steps.
Well, I sure appreciate your help.
Absolutely. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Great to see you.
Thank you for joining us today.